Hello and welcome back to my channel. I have the summer off from uni, and while I'll be working, I also want to take like these few months to actually spend my time reading. So while I've got the time off, I want to kind of tackle at least one really big book on my TBR, and also books that will just take me longer to read in general. So the first book I want to read is The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. I don't usually read big fantasy books, but I've always been curious about this book. I love dragons and I really like reading multiple point of views. I'm really interested in the idea that this world is on the brink of political turmoil and there's these ancient dragons that are starting to stir for the first time in decades. I hope it's an interesting take on a civilization that's dealing with a war as well as natural disasters that are kind of occurring. Like these dragons are like a force of nature that is also happening to these people while there is a man-made conflict occurring. My friend also really enjoys this story and she's currently reading the sequel. So I'm really excited to see her again at the end of summer and hopefully chat about how much we both loved this book. Also, I know you're not supposed to judge book by covers or anything like that, but the cover on this book is stunning. Like it's genuinely beautiful, and the cover for the sequel is also stunning. So I really want to like these books, mainly because then I can keep them on my shelves and display how pretty they are. I don't keep books that I don't like. I don't feel like there's any point to it. So yeah, I hope that I can keep these books on my shelves and keep my shelves looking very, very pretty. The second book I want to read is actually borrowed from the friend that I just spoke about, and that is Silver Nitrate by Silvia Moreno Garcia. It's a lot smaller of a book compared to The Priory of the Orange Tree, but it's very, very slow paced, which I enjoy, but I want to take my time with. This book is set in the 90s and follows Montserrat, who is a sound editor for film, and she's really, really good at her job, but she's often ignored in her line of work because it's a very male dominated sphere. She's also obsessed with horror movies, specifically very niche horror movies like cult classics, and she likes learning about cult directors that no one really knows about. But this interest has got her viewed by everyone as quite odd. Like there's a specific mention about her sister who would prefer that she's not into these things because she finds them weird, and her apartment is decorated with massive posters from niche horror movies and things like that. So she's kind of alone and doesn't really have a support system apart from her friend Tristan. Tristan, who was involved in a car accident, I think it's a decade ago in the story, and it's kind of scarred up his face, and this is an issue for him because he was a kind of a soap actor, and he placed a lot of value in the way that he looked when he was young, and now he's not getting as many roles because what he believes that his face is so disfigured that he's not gorgeous anymore or anything like that. But there's also another storyline that's running through this, that he possibly got his ex-girlfriend killed in a car accident, and I won't talk about that very much, mainly because I don't know a lot about it yet. I'm only 70 pages in, but also because I feel like what I know now is kind of a spoiler, and I want to keep these reviews or these just chatting about these books as spoiler free as possible, because I like to go into books kind of blind. Like sometimes I won't even read the full blurb. I'll just read the first sentence or I'll read the first page, and I'm like, if I like it, I like it, and I'll dive into it. So Tristan discovers that his new neighbor is a cult horror director called Abel Ureta, who is a director that Montserrat is like obsessed with. So they sit down and they have a dinner with him and they chat, and he talks about the last film that he ever made, and the reason why it never got published is because he claimed to have been cursed by a Nazi occultist who like imbued magic into the silver nitrate of the film, and they think they all got destroyed. Like silver nitrate is very flammable, or it's very like reactive or something like that. And it led to his film being destroyed because this was the 60s, they were filming on film. So this is the reason why his last film was never finished, and he is now asking Montserrat and Tristan to help him shoot the missing scene and like kind of lift his curse. So I'm really hoping that I love this book because it's got such an interesting premise. I've never really heard of something like this before. Like, it's so unique. Admittedly, so when I wrote kind of this script, I was only like 20 pages in, but now I'm like a little further in. And to be fair, I was really, really skeptical of how they would incorporate like a Nazi occultist into a story that seems to come out of nowhere. But it does really play on the fact that a lot of Germans fled, obviously, Germany when they were being prosecuted after the end of World War II, and a lot of them did end up in America, specifically the kind of like New Mexico region. So this is, based in that history, and that is the reason why there is still a Nazi running around in 1960s America, is because they were accepted into the country for who they were. Like, it's a really interesting history after World War II of how kind of almost the Nazis were incorporated into American life and offered refuge over in America. It's a really, really interesting history. So yeah, while I was skeptical of how this book could incorporate, the premise of a Nazi occultist, I think it did it actually really well. And I'm just so curious to see where this book is going. The next book I want to read is hopefully lighter than Silver Nitrate and Priory of the Orange Tree. Not in subject matter, because it's a crime thriller, but I often find that crime thrillers are really fast paced, they're really easy to read, because they're kind of aimed at the general public, if that makes sense. Like, they're not going for a niche audience, like they're kind of like prose is very simple, and it's like as easy to read as possible, which every now and then I really, really like, and arguably I really need. I don't think there's anything wrong with only reading, beautifully written or difficult to get through books, but every now and then, like, there's still a lot of value in books that are just simple, and books that are just, I say easy to read from my perspective, but there are people that probably don't find them easy to read, and people that do struggle to read. So we need like kind of these books that are simple in a way so that reading is accessible for everyone. Anyways, that's the end of my rant. I don't know where that came from, but the next book that I want to read is written by Peter James. He has so many books written, and my local library has so much of his stuff in the crime and thriller section. So if I do like this book, I'll be set for at least a year's worth of reading of just Peter James. So I got this book, it's called Stop Them Dead, a while ago for my birthday, but I haven't gotten around to reading it. And now that I've been working my way through like Suzanne Hill's crime thrillers, I want to get into some other like thriller series. If you don't know Peter James, he's a pretty prolific writer, mainly because he's written just so much. Like, this book, Stop Them Dead, is the 19th in a series, but I don't really think like it matters what book you pick up. I feel like maybe there is a through line, but you can just pick up anyone in the series. That's usually how it works for these like murder mystery series. There tends to be like one overarching plot. But you can kind of gather all of the information you need from any book that you read. So this one follows Detective Superintendent Roy Grace as he investigates a break-in turned murder that develops into the investigation of a much bigger crime. So it's like I said, it's quite a simple premise, but I'm really looking forward to just reading something that's easygoing. I've also been wanting to get back into philosophy lately. I study psychology, so we had a module about how philosophy and psychology kind of intersect, and then you speak a lot about morality and the theories of how we should live our life and how they are very interconnected within psychology, and how you shouldn't ignore like the basis of philosophy because it seems old and outdated, and how a lot of these philosophical ideas can still be applied today. So yeah, it's made me want to get back into learning philosophy. I studied it at A levels and I really, really enjoyed it. So I picked up the book Utopia by Thomas More, mainly because, again, it's just, I don't know if you can see it, but it's such like a gorgeous cover. Like, the purple is so pretty. I read the ones that walked away from Omulus a couple of years ago, and that really got me interested in like the ideas of utopias, and I've been meaning to reread it now that I'm a little older. I think I'll just understand it a little bit more. But this book is Utopia by Thomas More, which is a socio-political satire. It depicts a fictional island and discusses its social and religious and political customs. It was, well, it is a commentary on the 1500 society that More lived in at the time. This book, I want to give a lot of time to. Just flicking through the book itself, there's a lot that I want to look into further, and I want to spend more time researching. I also think that just because of how old this book is, like I said, it's from the 1500s, I will have to kind of look at what other people are saying and what they're thinking about this book. But I do think from the little bit of research that I've done, it was made to be written by the general to be read, sorry, by the general public at the time. So it's not horrifically academic, if that makes sense. Like, it was written to be read rather than written to be studied. I also found the book Fear and Trembling in the same secondhand shop that I found Utopia in. Soren, apologies for this pronunciation, Soren Kierkegaard is known as the first existentialist philosopher, which is a branch of philosophy that is concerned with like the individual's struggle to lead an authentic life despite how absurd existence itself seems to be. Early philosophers like Kierkegaard and Nietzsche, as well as Dostoevsky, critiqued the dominant idea of rationalism at the time, and specifically brought up issues with the idea of meaning itself. And this led to the birth of existentialism and of absurdism, because they critiqued this kind of rational idea that you could find. Like, there was something that was rational and intrinsically true, and you were alive because it made rational sense, and they critiqued that. And the book, Fear and Trembling, is about religious anxiety and how we can find true understanding of God through making a personal leap of faith. While I'm not a religious person, I find religion from a philosophical perspective to be really interesting in like the area of academia. And if I wasn't studying psychology, I would probably be studying this branch of philosophy. I also have the book Myth of Sisyphus, which I can read as a follow-on from this if I want to know more about existentialism. And I think Camus was specifically writing about absurdism, or he pioneered what would become absurdism, something like that. I need to do a bit more research into that, but I'm really hoping that I enjoy these two philosophical books, and I just have like the image of sitting out in the garden in the sun, reading and like making little notes and annoying my family with certain thought experiments that have come up in these books and being like, and this guy had this idea about God, and what do you think about the concept of utopia? Um, which admittedly my dad also really likes discussing, so I'll just annoy him when he gets home from work. So that is everything that I'll try to read this summer. I want to actually make an effort to read all of these because I do have the time, but I just need to choose to read over doing other things. I've also got like maybe 20 hours of flight time to read, so that should be enough time to get through like at least one book. Um, I also, just as a side note, am starting to record audiobooks for this channel. I'll probably do the pattern of one in-person video and then one audiobook, but it's something that I've been really interested in doing for a very long time. I've just finally built up the confidence through this to hear my voice back and to hear my voice reading things, and reading a script kind of out loud has also improved that, which I really, really struggled with. My like reading and then speaking was really, really bad. Um, so that makes recording audiobooks really difficult. But the first one that I've already recorded is Annabel Lee by Edgar Allan Poe. It is my favorite poem of all time. I just think it's stunning. Like it's the first time that I've ever like really understood why people love poetry. So yeah, that's the end of my little side note. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a lovely day.